In the summer of 1992, football witnessed one of the greatest underdog stories ever. A team that wasn't even supposed to be there, that did not even qualify, a squad thrown together at the last minute, went on to shock Europe. Little preparation, no expectations, without their best ever player. Many players are allegedly on holiday. This is the miraculous story of how Denmark went from vacation mode to becoming European champions. Denmark was drawn into a qualification group that featured Yugoslavia, Northern Ireland, Austria and the Faroe Islands. Despite their best efforts, Denmark finished with 13 points, just 1 point behind Yugoslavia. Denmark had failed to qualify for Euro 1992. Denmark players were disappointed, but there was a slight sense of hope. This was because of the rising tension in Yugoslavia. On March 1, 1991, conflict began in Yugoslavia, a war that would become known as the Yugoslav Wars. Due to the war, Yugoslavia was sanctioned by the United Nations and disqualified from Euro 1992. They were exiled on the 30th of May 1992. Euro 1992 was due to start just 10 days later. 𝐟𝐨𝐫𝐿 𝐾𝐭 later said, "They're sad memories. We had the Euros taken away from us and never got it back." Yugoslav captain Dragan Stojkovic directed his anger at UEFA. "I wanted to know why UEFA had let things go this far. If they were going to throw us out of the competition, why didn't they tell us before? We had been training, we were already at the hotel in Sweden, and now we had to go home." Denmark was selected to replace Yugoslavia because they finished runners-up in qualification. The story goes that the Danish squad was all on holiday. Some players, like Peter Schmeichel, strongly dispute this. Well, the myth is that we were all on the beach. You know, myths are myths. The reality was that we'd finished our seasons. The players who played abroad at the time and the players who played in Denmark were still in their seasons. Others, like Brian Laudrup, remember it differently. His wife had told him that Denmark was selected for Euro 1992. "I told my wife that we were going to get slaughtered as most of the players had been on holiday." There was another factor that made Denmark's triumph remarkable. They went to Euro 1992 without their best ever player, Michael Laudrup. He decided to leave the national team during qualification due to the defensive approach of manager Møller Nielsen. Laudrup later said, "I'd had a disagreement with the coach about how the national team should play. I regret not being there, but if I had to make the choice again, it would be the same decision." Before moving on to the main tournament, please consider liking, sharing and subscribing to my channel. It has been just over a year since we launched it, and I'm happy to have hit over 2,000 subscribers. Also, consider signing up to my Patreon. It will help move this channel to a weekly schedule. Thank you very much. Euro 1992 began on June 10th in Sweden. Denmark was in a tough group alongside France, England and Sweden. France were favourites, as Jean-Pierre Papin led them. England was also a contender after their semi-final appearance at the World Cup 1990. Denmark opened their campaign against England. Møller Nielsen set Denmark up in a 5-3-2 formation aimed to frustrate England. It worked, as they limited England to few chances. England's best chance came to Alan Smith, who hit a cross first time, but it bounced off the near post. Schmeichel was in excellent form as he produced a fantastic save from a long-range effort from Tony Daly. Denmark had their best chance via John Jensen. A cross was laid after him, and he took a touch into the box before firing a low shot that bounced off the far post. The game finished goalless. Schmeichel later commented, "Once we drew 0-0 with England, it was like a funeral in the dressing room. We could not believe we hadn't won that game. But from that moment, we thought, well, we are definitely in a position where we can compete in this tournament." Denmark's next opponent was eternal rival Sweden. Surprisingly, Sweden held France to a 1-1 draw in their opening game. France and England had then drawn 0-0. This game was a massive opportunity for either side to take control of the group. Martin Dahlin had the first clear-cut chance of the game for Sweden. He was played through into the box. Schmeichel charged out and closed the angle, which caused Dahlin to shoot quickly, and he sent the ball over. Dallin had another chance when the ball fell to him in the box. Schmeichel again charged out quickly, which meant Dallin had to shoot quickly by flicking the ball, but he did not connect well and the ball was cleared. Denmark's best chance of the first half came from a free kick. It was a low-effort shot heading for the near-post corner that keeper Thomas Ravelli saved. Sweden continued to create chances in the second half and got a deserved winner in the 58th minute via Thomas Brolin. A low cross was flicked onto Brolin, and he instinctively toe-poked it in past Schmeichel. Sweden won the game 1-0. Müller-Nielsen would later comment on the defeat. "We were scared against Sweden though, and I felt that was getting in the way of what we could possibly achieve." Nielsen would later devise a great idea to ease the tension before their crucial game against France. The Danish players were returning from training on a coach when they spotted a sign for mini-golf. They hesitantly asked the strict Nielsen if they could play. To their surprise, he agreed. Nielsen later commented, "So, for the first time as a coach, I said, what the hell, let's try something different. Let's go and play mini-golf." So, while the French and English players were put through yet another rigorous set of interviews, the Danish players were messing about with windmills. This decision has a significant impact on the Danish players. Brian Laudrup later commented, "We couldn't believe it when the coach said yes, and we just had a laugh, threw stuff at each other, and got back on the coach. But we were so relaxed because of this." The Danes' freedom was evident as they made a fast start against France. Just 8 minutes into the game, a headed ball bounced across the box to Henrik Larsson. He was wide open, watched the ball approach carefully, and volleyed it in powerfully to give Denmark a 1-0 lead. Denmark dominated most of the first half and drove against the French multiple times. France was playing with apprehension as they were expected to win this game. The French created a couple of chances late in the first half, most notably for 𝐸𝐵 Cantona, but he volleyed the ball wide. The French grew in confidence in the second half. In the 60th minute, the French scored a deserved equaliser. Luis Fernandez received the ball on the edge of the box. He turned away from the goal but cleverly backheeled to a wide-open Jean-Pierre Papin. Papin then curled into the far bottom corner. Despite the setback, the Danes seemed unfazed and continued to be calm. The French, meanwhile, grew more intense as they needed to win to have a chance of progressing. In the 78th minute, Flemming Poulsen dribbled with the ball wide and fired in a low cross. Danish substitute Lars Elstrup met the cross and scored from close range. Denmark was 2-1 up. The French launched countless attacks in the final 10 minutes but could not score. Denmark won the game. Sweden had beaten England 2-1 at the same time. Both France and England were knocked out. Sweden finished top with 5 points. Denmark finished second with 3. Schmeichel was earning plaudits for his performances. Danish striker Poulsen told the media, "Some people have said we have the best goalkeeper in the world." Denmark would play the Netherlands next. Despite the fairy tale run, the Dutch were clear favourites. They were the reigning Euro champions and had a talented team. What followed was arguably the game of the tournament. Denmark made a fast start. In the first minute, Brian Laudrup beat the offside trap and went through on goal. Unfortunately, he took a heavy touch, and Dutch keeper Van Breukelen was able to make the save. They continued to pressure the Dutch goal and got the opening goal after just 5 minutes. Brian Laudrup crossed the ball from the right side, which beat the Dutch defence, and Larsson scored with a free header on the far post. Denmark dominated the first 20 minutes and probably should have scored more. In the 23rd minute, the Dutch made them pay. A long ball was headed down to Dennis Bergkamp on the edge of the box. He hit a volley that was close to Schmeichel. It should have been saved, but Schmeichel allowed the ball to go through his hands and went in. Despite the setback, the Danes continued to play with belief. In the 33rd minute, they launched another attack. They crossed into the box and Ronald Koeman poorly headed the ball to the edge of the box. A wide-open Larsson ran onto the ball and fired it low into the corner. Denmark was deservedly 2-1 up. Denmark continued where they left off in the second half as they made another fast start. They created a couple of chances but hit them off target. Denmark dominated the second half but could not put the game away. In the final 10 minutes, the Dutch started to create chances. Ruud Gullit forced a save from Schmeichel with a near-post shot. In the 86th minute, they won a corner. The ball was crossed into the box and took a couple of deflections before falling to Frank Rijkaard. He shot the ball the first time and it went in. It was 2-2. The Dutch took control of the game in extra time for the first time. They dominated the ball and created a lot of chances, but Schmeichel and the Danish defence held on for penalties. Koeman and Larsson both scored the opening penalties. Marco van Basten was next for the Dutch. He took a long run up and side-footed his efforts to the left of Schmeichel. Schmeichel guessed the right way and saved it. All the remaining penalties were scored, and it finished 5-4 to Denmark. Incredibly, Denmark was in the Euro 1992 final. The key moment once again came from coach 𝐬𝐮𝐬𝐫𝐞. Just before the extra time, he gave a team talk to ease the pressure. If we lose now, then, hey, we still made it to the semi-finals of the tournament that we didn't even qualify for. So, don't worry, go back out and play. Germany beat Sweden 3-2 in the other semi-final. The final was played on June 26th in Gothenburg. Germany was the overwhelming favourite. Germany made the stronger start and created a couple of chances for Stefan Reuter and Guido Buchwald, but Schmeichel saved both. In the 18th minute, Kim Vilfort tackled Andreas Bremer and passed to Poulsen. He then passed to the edge of the German box. John Jensen then struck the ball first time high into the net. Denmark was 1-0 up. That was just the second goal of Jensen's international career. Commentator Martin Tyler highlighted the surprise scorer. Yes, Jensen! John Jensen has finally got one right. Germany responded strongly, and just 4 minutes later, Schmeichel saved an effort from Klinsmann. Stefan Effenberg made a driving run towards the Danish box and took a powerful shot that Schmeichel saved. In the second half, Germany made some attacking subs as they pushed for the equaliser, but Denmark defended resolutely. With just 12 minutes remaining, Thomas Helmer cleared the ball for Germany, but John Siverbeck headed it towards Vilfort. He dragged the ball between two German defenders and struck a lovely left-footed shot off the post and in. It was 2-0 to Denmark. Vilfort had spent the tournament travelling between Sweden and Denmark because his young daughter Line was ill with leukemia. For him, it was a bittersweet moment. He later commented, "For me, it's two different things. That's how it was. Otherwise, I couldn't have played in Sweden at all." For the rest of the game, Denmark shut the game down. In the last tournament, before the goalkeeper pass-back rule was changed, the Danes repeatedly passed the ball back to Schmeichel, who picked it up to waste time. Denmark held on and won 2-0. Denmark miraculously became European champions. 𝐬𝐮𝐬𝐫𝐞 later described the incredible win, but listen very carefully and remember this. If it goes wrong, they will say, "What an amateur." How can he let them play golf instead of train? How can he let them eat hamburgers? I know what I am, and I was lucky, and that is football. Take it from me, whenever they tell you it's about science, it's not. It's about luck, my friend. It's all about luck. Despite deciding to miss the tournament and go on holiday instead, Michael Laudrup fully supported Denmark. Yes, of course, I wanted Brian to do well, but it wasn't just that. I'm Danish, for God's sake. I'm a Danish football fan. And even though Muller, 𝐬𝐮𝐬𝐫𝐞 and I didn't always get on, I wanted my country to win. I kidded myself throughout the group stage. I tried to keep away from it, but even in St. Lucia with my wife, I was asking people, "Do you have a newspaper? Can you tell me the football score?" Well, that was the incredible story of Denmark's miracle Euro 1992 win. My next video in 2 weeks will be on Euro 1996. So, if you'd like to know more, please subscribe and hit that notification bell.